Greetings, welcome to another Deckard Games YouTube thing. I love my brawlers. Since the 16-bit era, brawlers are one of my favorite types of video games to play. Not only they are fun, but the co-op possibility was a major selling point for me. You know, playing with another real human being by your side, those were other times indeed. Presenting SIFU, a new brawler developed and published by Slowcap for the PlayStation and Windows PCs in February 8 of 2022. Yep, we have a new brawler in 2022. Much like the Yakuza and the Batman Arkham video games, SIFU is a love letter to old-school brawlers from the golden era, but with mechanics which bring it to the modern age. Starting with some Virtua Fighter 2 polygon-style characters, SIFU introduces itself to the player with an intro/tutorial where, like any decent martial arts story, someone dies at the hands of the main villain and it's revenge time. Unlike other martial arts stories, either in cinema or in video games, holy crap, is SIFU hard. Forget about those Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris or Steven Seagal things, where enemies come at you one at a time, because SIFU cranks it up to the max level. My first death hurt, of course, but my smirk quickly turned to a 99 Matrix Neo as I figured out what was going on. You see, every time you die in SIFU, you can come back to life immediately, but you wake up older. Let me explain. The game's first level, the squad, starts you at 20 years old. Get your ass kicked and you will wake up age 21, with your death counter set to 1. If you manage to KO the person who took you down or kill a string of enemies without dying, you can reset your death counter to 0. But if you fail to do that and you die again, your death counter will rise to 2. Die again, it jumps to 3. Suddenly you're pushing 30. The next thing you know, you're 75. So it goes. This is SIFU's way of handling lives. Instead of having a little lives counter, you age and come back. Each time more powerful, meaning that your attacks deal more damage, but with your health bar shorter, because that's how real life works, I guess. You're gone forever if you push past 75, death counter mitigations aside. And when you die for real, in the video game I mean, you lose all the bonuses and skills that you unlocked along the way and are forced to start the level again. But what happens when you do figure out that nasty boss at the end of the squads? When you beat a level in SIFU, the game saves the age you did it at, along with any bonuses you choose along the way. 64 might be your best attempt at the squads, but it won't be your last. Because when you wake up in the second level, the club, with long hair and wrinkly skin, the doorman might send you straight to hell in a handbasket. So you go back to the squads, permanently trying to improve your earlier runs so you can, literally, make your life easier across the game's 5 brutal levels. That's the devilishness of SIFU. When the way forward is blocked, you don't get to throw up your hands and say, to hell with it, I'm stuck. You can always admit your deficiencies and go back in time to do better. That's what draws out what would otherwise be a short game. Your constant death and resurrection require you to create a step-by-step internal guide that will hopefully get you deeper into the level with minimal deaths. And while I appreciate that SIFU forces me to think strategically about each and every fight, it's still prohibitively hard, which takes us to the gameplay and how one should master it. Although your main objective in SIFU is to get to the final boss in each level, but still they aren't its best fights. Beating solo enemies in SIFU largely involves the same pattern memorization you can find back in the Beat Wars era of gaming, with some modifications to keep you on your toes.
Check this fucking clown. Oh man. He has a weapon. Whoa.
Inscribing attack patterns into your brain folds is a tried and true form of fun, and I did delight in finally snuffing out each boss, easily dodging combos that once tormented me. But SIFU truly shines where memorization meets improvisation and playfulness, an experience mainly found in the goon-filled rooms on the way to the bosses. SIFU is now what I like to call a strategic brawler. Yes, every screen requires the player to be aware of their surroundings, of enemies, objects, weapons, low and high ground, the list goes on and on. You can produce widely diverse combinations of kneeings, elbowings, kicks, punches, and throws from just two buttons and an analog stick, although SIFU's brilliance lies more in defense than offense. If you don't master the art of a good defense, SIFU will be impossible to play. While holding block, flicking the analog stick down dodges high attacks, causing the protagonist to slip and roll around, and under haymakers, kicks and grabs, which basic enemies telegraph clearly like the amateurs they are. It is possible to avoid most attacks that way, and at this point basic enemies struggle to land a single blow even when they got you surrounded.
You can't keep up.
It is enormously satisfying to stand in a place dodging every foot and fist and baseball bat that enters your airspace like a pro boxer who outclasses their opponent and knows it. The path to doing this is not an easy one. As mentioned, you will die, and you will also die, but the reward for doing so is just astonishing. You will feel like a modern-day Bruce Lee with all the stylish display of agility and athleticism. And remember, you do know Kung Fu. There is much more you can do. There are special attacks that duck under incoming strikes or turn you around, for instance, and many of them behave differently when you're holding a bat, sword or staff. It's also possible to parry strikes instead of dodging them, but I still struggle with the peculiar timing, but when you get it right, it opens enemies to throws which can be used to create space, knock over other enemies, or set up special chasing attacks. Speaking of style, the Stylized Art Direction and carefully designed environments pair well with some dashing cinematography to create fights that feel like movie scenes. Howie Lee's lethal thumping soundtrack elevates SIFU into a true immersive delight. All of this being said, it gets really fun when all the possibilities of SIFU's combat flow together fluidly in one long brawl that it doesn't seem like you can possibly be controlling, although you are. SIFU can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. I think it's because you can always do better in SIFU. As you play, the vendetta that supports the narrative in SIFU slowly becomes your own, which makes the dying throes of the story resonate even harder. SIFU will test your patience, but learning how to coolly dismantle a room full of goons with virtual martial arts is worth the pain. If you like a challenge, give SIFU not one, not 2, but numerous tries. And if you like this video, why not try the others that I have in this exact same channel? Before that, leave a like in this one and subscribe to the channel, because your support is always very much appreciated. As always, thank you for watching this, and until my next video, please do take care.